Hey everybody, Doug Rucker here with DougRuckerSchool.com and DougRuckerStore.com, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the ready-to-use products we have versus some of the DIY, which is do-it-yourself. So we're going to go over some of those coming up next. Okay guys, on our website we have quite a few products like a bypass downstream injector. We've got pressure washing gun assembly. We also have ball valve setups, soft wash guns, downstream injector kits, a number of different things that you can buy, and you have a choice to purchase these, and they come ready to use, which would mean we build it for you and you're paying a little extra for that, or you can buy them DIY, which is do it yourself, where essentially you get all the parts to these, and they come all unassembled, and then all you have to do is put them together using the Teflon tape and the lock seal or whatever it is that you use. So we have quite a few people that order things DIY. We have a large majority of people that order things RTU, and that's okay. We don't mind doing that, but I do want to just share with you some ways that you can save a little money, somewhere between $5 and $15 sometimes on these items, and you can put them together. And so I'm going to show instructions how you do that. A couple of things. Number one, to save you some money, and number two, to help you learn how to put these things together, because it's very important if you ever have to do field repairs that you know how to put these things together, how to take them apart, that kind of thing. And it just kind of helps you get real familiar with some of the parts associated with the tools that you're using out in the field. So today I'm going to cover downstream bypass injector, downstream kits, things that have to do with downstreaming. So let's get into the downstream bypass injector kit next. Okay guys, on the downstream bypass injector, of course, this is a way for you to be able to draw your bleach mix when you're doing a house wash or pre-treating or post-treating concrete. Anytime you want to draw, degreasers, whatever you want to draw via the downstream method. This bypass injector here is one that we've been selling for quite a few years, kind of originally the way it came out, with a compression fitting here. Your downstream injector is connected here between the two T's. You've got your ball valve on the side here, and so when it is like this in this position, your water would come across this way from your hose, and it's actually going to follow the loop and go this way and then out. That would be for rinsing. If you wanted to draw your bleach mix, then you would come over to the bypass injector, turn the valve so the water can't go down this way. The water would go straight across here. You've got your hose hooked up here that goes to your bucket or your tank of bleach, and then it's going to draw it, providing you're using the correct nozzle, the low flow chemical draw nozzles. So that's one way that they're built. Another way that we've been building them lately is where we put the ball valve on the top so that when it's rinsing, and this is a very popular way to do it if you're hooking to the Flow Pro remote control system, except if you have the Flow Pro, you're eliminating this ball valve because the Flow Pro already has the ball valve in it. So, but this just allows the rinse water to make a straight pass, straight shot through. If you wanted to downstream draw your bleach, again, you've got your hose that's going into your bucket or your tank. Then you would come over, turn this valve, and then the water is not going to go through there. It's going to come down through the loop, and it's going to pick up the bleach, again, provided you're using the correct downstream nozzle. So those are the two different ones. Next I'll show you what they look like when they're broken apart with parts, and how we can put it together, or how you can put it together. Hey guys, don't forget, if you're getting value out of these videos, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified every time I come out with something that could possibly help you. Give me a like and leave a comment or question. If you have anything I can help you with, be glad to try to answer any questions that I can. Thanks so much for watching, and more to come, so stay tuned. Okay, guys, so when you get your bypass downstream injector, downstream bypass injector, and you order it ready to use, it's going to become pretty much looking like this, except everything's going to be thread taped and lock sealed and all of that. But if you're getting it DIY, the first thing you want to do is determine what your inlet fitting and your outlet fitting is going to be. And so in previous videos, I've always talked about that the plug is always my outlet fitting. In other words, that's the fitting the water is going to flow through. And so at my machine, all the way through the hose reels and everything, it's always the outlet fitting is the plug, or it's called the male fitting, whatever, that the water flows through. So on the top of mine, the very first fitting is going to be the female coupler fitting, and on my hose I've got the plug which the water's going to come through, and so that's going to hook in right there. So it's very important that you understand what your outlet fitting is, and that again is going to be the fitting that's coming right off of the machine. And some guys are going to use a plug like I do, or some guys are going to use the female fitting as their outlet fitting. Either way, doesn't matter. You can do it however you want to. It's really just kind of a personal preference thing. Pros and cons to both, but the way I do it is always the plug pointing the way of the water. So if you're doing it the opposite way that I do it, then these top fittings are going to change, and your hose is going to hook in like that. Okay, so that's basically the first thing you have to determine. Once you've determined that, then you can start putting everything together. This is a good guide to go by, and we have a picture on the website. Don't really need a list of parts, because if you order it DIY, then we're just going to send you all the parts and you can put it together yourself. And really, all you're going to need are a couple of adjustable type wrenches, or regular fixed wrenches, whatever. Some lock seal, Teflon tape, and you're good to go. So we'll here you've got, again at the top, I've got a 3/8 female coupler. It's male pipe thread, and then on the opposite side we've got a male plug, and it is also male pipe thread. On the injector, what we do is we set it up so it can be quick connected. So if the injector ever goes bad, it's very easy to replace. You should always have a couple of these set up just like that in your truck, and if your injector quits drawing or quits working for whatever reason, simply put another one in. Don't sit there and try to diagnose the problem in the field. Save that for repair day or maintenance day or whatever. Slap another one in, get back to work, finish the job. And so these are basically all the parts that you're going to get if you want to put it together yourself. Is these two T's. You've got female thread on both sides, and you've got a male thread on the other side. You've got your ball valve, and then you've got another T. And so that's basically what it's going to look like when you get your parts. And it goes like this. This hose on this end is a swivel, and this end on the hose is not a swivel. And so you want to make sure that the swivel end of the hose goes on the far end, away from the injector, basically, because as you put it together, you need it to swivel up inside this female thread here on this T. So next we'll get going on actually putting it together and show you how I do it. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is put my Downstream Injector together. And so what I've done is I've already gone through and taped all my fittings. Anytime I'm taping fittings, I do all the taping at one time, so I'm not stopping, taping a fitting, putting it in, then taping the next fitting, putting it in. I just go through and tape them all at one time. And so, as you can see, they're all taped. They're all in line for how I'm going to install this. And so the first thing I'll do is take my Downstream injector, and I'm going to make sure that this arrow on, I don't know if you can see it or not, I'll try to, but there's always an arrow on a Downstream injector on these general pumps. You can usually see it pretty good. So that's pointing towards the gun, down the loop where the chemical is going to flow. You don't want to do that the opposite way and have it pointing up, because then your injector is not going to work. So I'll take and make sure that's pointed down, and because I know the plug always points the way of the water flow, I put a little of the lock seal around the top on both of them. And so I'll take my coupler fitting up here, get it going. Then I'm going to get my plug fitting down here, get it going, because now the arrow is pointing through the plug, which is the way you want to have the injector set up for the way I do it. So I'll just simply take and put this, a little wrench on it, snug it up. Doesn't have to be super tight. Flip it over and then tighten it down. You know, sometimes you'll see guys that will take and they'll put they'll just take and put like this fitting in the vise, and then they'll take and wrench this down and spin this so this part spins down into it. I've done that before, but I always find myself taking this and flipping it and just snugging that down to make sure they're both really snug. So I don't really do it that way. I just do it the way I showed you. So now that the Downstream injector is set up, I'm going to set up the Inlet T, which is this. And I've got that one end plug for the ball valve. This top one is going to be where the coupler fitting goes. Just put a little lock seal on it, onto the Teflon tape. I usually do it about halfway around, because I know as I spin it in here, it's going to get all through the threads. Tighten it up. Again, just nice and snug. You don't have to sit there and wrench down on it. Then I take the plug, do the same thing. It's the outlet fitting where the water is going to go down to catch the Downstream injector. So once that's done, snugged up, now this part is ready to connect onto the T. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is take my ball valve and I'm going to put my T back into the vise. Actually, what I usually do is leave it in there, but first off, you've got to put a little lock seal on it. And I'm going to spin my ball valve, and I want my ball valve to be like this, pointing out. So I'm going to line that up with this part of the T. So I'll put the T in there, and that's basically where I want the ball valve to end up, because I want it to be facing out. Then I'm going to put my wrench, get a little bit bigger one, onto the ball valve. Just spin it around to where it gets nice and snug. I feel like maybe it can go one more, so I'll do that. Might be a little bit too tight, but that's not bad for this one to be tight. And then I'm going to line it so it gets kind of nice and straight with that T. Then I'm going to come back and take my other T, put a little lock seal on it, and then it's going to go up on the top part. And again, I'm going to line it up the same way as the other one, so that the broad part is all nice and consistent and even. Went a little too far. Okay. Now, this is the side where your hose with the swivel that I told you about is going to go. So I usually do that towards the end. We'll take here and put our other outlet plug up top. Get it nice and snug. Then once that's done, I take my hose, and on the non-swivel end, I'm going to put my coupler female fitting, which is where the male fitting off of the Downstream Injector is going to connect to. And since this has no swivel, I can just put the whole hose just like that. Tighten her down. And then my injector is going to go like that. Let's get that camera up a little bit so you can see. There we go. So it's up like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is take my T like that. So that's where that's going to go. And then I know all I have to do is hook up this hose, but what I do is take the T off. Not the T off, but what I do is take this hose off. This is the bottom hose. Take this hose off, because I already got my coupler on it. Put a little lock seal on it. I'll get this going in by hand. Tighten it up as much as I can by hand, then take my wrench and snug her up. Next thing I do is take my Downstream Injector, put it on that end, and there you go. That's how you put one together. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Again, great for you guys to learn how to do this stuff so you get used to knowing your fittings and all of that. And it just makes it easier the more you know when you're out in the field and have to do repairs, that you can fix these rather quickly. So again, make sure you have a couple of these spares. This is just a regular Downstream Injector. It's got the female coupler on one end, and it's got the female pipe thread plug on the other. Both of these are female pipe thread 3/8 coupler, 3/8 plug. Okay. Next, real quick, we'll do the Downstream Injector, so stay tuned for that. All right, so again, here's a Downstream Injector, which we just used on the bypass system. So if you're not wanting to use a bypass system and you just want to use a regular Downstream Injector and feed it to a bucket, you can certainly do that. Again, you have to make sure that your arrow is pointing the proper direction. That arrow is pointing that way. So when I set this system up, because again, the plug is my outlet fitting, then I'm going to make sure that the plug is on the fitting the way that the arrow is pointing. The coupler, this is a brass fitting. That's all I had over here. But that's how it's going to look, because the water is flowing this way. If you're using the coupler, the female end, as your outlet fitting, then of course you're just going to do it the opposite and make sure that the arrow is pointing towards the coupler. But putting these together is very simple. All you need is some Teflon tape. We're going to Teflon tape it. A couple of wraps. And then, again, find my arrow. I would use a little lock seal. I'm not going to do this one yet because this is brand new and I'm not going to mess up another one. But anyway, find the arrow. Make sure which way the arrow is pointing. And so I want to put the plug on there. I'm going to tighten her down with the wrench. So that's how it's going to look when you're done with just putting the fittings on. And then that's how it looks after you're done. So if you buy it ready to use, that's what it's going to come like, all put together with the Teflon on it, and we've tightened her down and put the hose on it and all of that. But you can save yourself a little bit of money by getting all this stuff separate and DIY it yourself. Okay, so that's Downstream bypass injector. I did not show this one. We don't sell as many of these, but it's pretty much the same thing. This is the one with the compression fitting on it, and so it's basically the same thing as the bypass, the one with the straight shot, but you're just relocating this, and all you have to do is look at the picture and you can see. The main thing is just lay the parts out the way they're going to go, and then put your tape on and then start putting them together. And if you leave them laid out like that, you won't get messed up. So hope this has helped you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that bell, hit the notification, all of that stuff. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget about my online video school. It's actually being revamped. I'm going to have total new software, new test, all of that kind of stuff. The price is going to go up a little bit, so if you get in on that now, you get to be part of the new changes, but the new pricing won't affect you. So don't forget that. And also our next monthly school is July 11th and 12th, I believe, next week. So go to pressurecleaningschool.com. You can find out all the information about that, or text me 281-883-3630. Y'all have a blessed day.